questions. I'm going to let each of these lovely people introduce themselves, and I just realized I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Rebecca Cook. Sorry about that. It is on my name tag, but hard to read from here. So I'll be your panel moderator today, and tell us who you are.
Yes, everybody's super glad to be here. I'm Aspen Kennedy. I play Isaiah in The Forge.
Hi, I'm Venus Monique. I am an actor and a producer and speaker, and I play Chris Tanner in Vindication.
Hi, everyone. My name is Robert Amaya, and I worked with the Kendricks with the movie Courageous. It's Javier Martinez, the Snake King.
Good to meet you. My name is Diego, and I'm a talent manager.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for being here. We're so stoked to have each of you here. So if you want to learn more about these guys, they're all really humble, but there's more fun details about them in their bios and the program book as well, which might also help you think of good questions, just saying. But yeah, so what is something that you can tell us about yourself, just quick to start us off, that might not be in your bio, but might be relevant to our conversation here?
For me, truly, like I tell people, any opportunity I've ever been able to take advantage of has only been because of God's, His provision. So I say it a lot, but you guys may not know that, but yeah.
Mine's not in my bio, but I have mentioned it in interviews. I only do acting because God told me to, because I tried it in high school and I absolutely hated it. So I was never going to do it. And then in college, God told me to do it. And I said, yes, sir.
Something that's not in my bio would probably be that I got into film in a really weird way. Courageous being my first film, I actually got a phone call from them to tell me that I wasn't going to get the role. Then I got the role. It was a great story, but that's not in the bio.
Those are like safe answers though, man. What? No, in his bio, Robert can also rap. He's a singer. In case y'all don't know, that's useful. Something in my bio that's I love. It's not on my it's not on my bio, but I do believe that coffee is essential for meetings.
Amen.
And like having productive meetings, having coffee or tea. So I think that's an important thing, and it's a very important thing for me.
Staying hydrated for sure. Yeah, okay. Well, did you all see an example of a great manager right there? He was plugging his client, okay? If you don't know Diego, he's awesome. And what I love about him is he just really cares about people and he invests in people. And so he's really collected just a really special roster with that heart as well. So we have a wonderful panel here. I'm not seeing questions yet. Do we have questions coming up yet? Everybody should have had a chance to get that QR code. Awesome. Okay. If not, I'll come up with questions myself. All right. Okay, great. This might or might not be a fast one. You can have more than one answer if you so choose. Do you have a favorite project that you worked on? And maybe why?
Not to show favoritism, but The Forge was definitely one of my favorites. Just to be able to be around amazing filmmakers, but the first and foremost, they keep the Lord first. And just as how they set the tone, the atmosphere every day on set, it truly blessed my heart, and it's one of my favorites to this day.
It was a joy working with you too, man. Awesome, yeah. Venus?
I think mine would honestly be, I've had so many good ones and a lot of great experiences across the board, but Vindication has been my favorite, not just because it's been long running, but because the character I get to play would have been a goal character that I wanted to play in the future, but I'm getting to play her now. And so I get to be a detective and have a gun and do fight scenes and Jared has written me some deep emotional range stuff, so I actually get to do acting on there and not just some surface level acting, but some deeper things. And then in the end, the whole series is to glorify God. So all of that is really what I would have wanted to do one day, and now I've done that. So I'd say that's my favorite.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm consistent about this. Although I've had amazing projects over the years, Courageous will always be in a special place in my heart. Not just because it launched my film career, but honestly, it came at a time in my life where I had just become a dad. I mean, my daughter's here now, but I had just become a dad, and I got to spend 2 months with these guys learning how to be the men that God called us to be, the fathers that God called us to be. So it was like a 2-month masterclass on the subject and a connection with God. And you know, Aspen, the way that they run their sets, it's just beautiful with constant prayer and people just talking life into you. So for me, Courageous was beyond just the message of the film. It was a personal growth.
So I'm not an actor, so I can't speak within that perspective, but projects that I've been a part of because of my clients, I would say Courageous Legacy, when they shot some extra scenes and I got to be on set. That was an important one for me because it was kind of like a God wink of the Lord using that as a way to affirm what I'm doing as a manager and an impact I can have with a client and with those in the industry. And then I would say Family Camp is tied to that as well, because in that, the Lord, again, I got to work with Robert, but then from that project alone, through relationships, I got to sign on 2 additional clients from that project. So, yeah.
Yeah, life changer. Cool. Oh, here's a fun one. What is one question you've never been asked, or maybe rarely asked, but one that you wish people would ask? And you don't have to go in order if someone comes up with a first.
I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is who has helped you in your faith, or who has helped you stay strong in this industry.
Venus, who has helped you in your faith?
Big old shout out to my mom. I don't think, kind of makes me want to cry thinking about it, I don't think that I would have the blessings and the opportunities and the favor that I have if my mom was not who she is, praying for me and covering us, and just the way that we were brought up and the way that she is still so faithful, regardless of how it looks and how she's, I don't want to say treated, but like the way others look at her who don't understand what God is doing, but she stays on God's side instead of the side of people. And she's taught me so much about standing firm for your faith and being real. And I wouldn't have these things if it weren't for her teaching me and covering me.
Anybody else? Nothing? We got nothing? We can come back to that, okay, if you think of one, all right?
That's a heavy one.
Yeah. Okay, this is great. How did you go about finding a good acting mentor or a strong community of actors to support you, if you have? Yeah.
I think classes are great. I found so many great acting friends in my classes, like really tight buddies, because you are working together all the time. You're doing scenes, you're getting to know each other on a different level. And then they can be like, hey, we're on this project and so backed out, are you free? But they do that because they worked with you and they know that you can act. And so they feel confident recommending you to the filmmaker. And then just trying to find a community in person, not just of acting, not just classes, but the whole reason I started Personal Powerhouse and have the Sisterhood Suite is because of this question. I didn't have community when I got into the industry. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have a mentor. God told me to do it, so I just did it. But I had to learn the hard way, and it felt like it was very slow, and I felt like I didn't know if I was doing things right. And I was like, well, if I've struggled with this, I'm sure that others have too. And so this community has come out of it. And then when I opened the community, all of these women, all these Christian actresses came, and I was like, so I'm not the only one. And so if you can do anything, plug into a community. How did you find one? I just created one. But also classes are such a good way to find people who support you.
Yeah, I would say classes 100%. It's good to always be working on your own craft. You have to. In this industry and for yourself, you always want to give God your absolute best. So working on your craft is absolutely important. But sometimes it's not easy because you'll find a bunch of acting coaches and a bunch of acting, teachers that are just all over the place. Sometimes it's finding, especially if you're a fan of faith-based films, that person that you admire, their acting skill or the way that they're doing things, reach out sometimes with a DM or just a message and asking like, do you have any recommendations? They might know. They might share something. I'm not guaranteeing that they're going to answer every time, but it's interesting. People love to help people, and I can tell you, it's not just one actor, but I'm sure Aspen and other people. We love to help people. It's because we are so grateful for the blessings that we've had, and we want to be able to share that as well, whatever knowledge we might have. So asking the people that you already respect. But I would also say regarding community, certainly plugging in to online communities, people that have those similar desires and those similar, abilities even, or in the performing art that you love. But also, like, if you're an actor, like, do theater, do other projects with other actors, whether it's community, whether it's higher up in regional. There is no too little or too basic. Let me tell you something. My comedic chops and a lot of my acting came from volunteering at church with children. You learn a lot by acting for children, because children are, they are not kind. They don't give you a pity laugh or a pity applause.
They act up all the time.
Not at all. They are straight and blunt with you. If you're not funny, you're gonna know it. But you learn a lot. You learn a lot. So I would say, like, get yourself involved in community projects, and don't shy away from those kind of things, including, of course, your church.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, I'm not specifically from an actor, but I think from the industry perspective of having industry mentors, I would say that not to limit the impact that just your local church community can have. For me, as a manager, I don't have like a manager mentor. I don't have a manager community. So, I'm not dependent on that. And I'm not saying these actors are either, but I'm just sharing how the impact of finding my local church community that doesn't know me beyond just Diego and pouring into me biblically, and having a community that I'm detached from the industry has impacted me in the industry. So I would just say I find a mentor that's also away from the industry, because being able to have that foundation biblically will impact you as a creative in the industry.
That is so good. Yeah, and I just have a couple things I'd like to add, because what you said about not needing to be in the industry, that's so important, right? Because our life is more than being actors too, right? And what I found lacking at one point in my journey as well is I didn't feel like I had a good church community to plug into. And so I felt very disconnected, and like I didn't have a base to come back to. It's like the sets are great, but then what does real life look like after, right? You can have the postpartums after you leave everybody. And so it's like, okay, what does that look like? And there's a work that comes to being community, whether it's in the industry or out. Right, the way this question was phrased is like, how do you find community? It's not going to come find you most times. So it does take work and initiative and some discomfort to go out and find it or make it, like Venus did, right? And that's an okay thing too. Also realize you might be that community for somebody else, and that's a valuable thing, and it will become mutually beneficial. So be looking for those opportunities. But yeah, create your community where you are. Find where God is planting you, and really put down your roots, and build those relationships. Educate people on how to support you in your artistic journey. They're not going to know if they don't know. How are they going to know? But most times they're interested and what actors do. And so you can help educate them. It's like, this is what my life actually looks like on the day-to-day. This is how I need prayer. This is how I need support. And I think you'll find the people there for you.
Yeah, and just to add to that too, that's amazing. That's something I've done, not just in my career, but in my personal life, to ask God to say, hey, I need you to help me on my journey. I ask that you place the people that I need, that I don't even know that I need, on my path that will help me get to the point where you want me to be. So, and he's done that, honestly. Just similar to Isaiah, like, God has blessed me with mentors that I didn't even know who to reach out to, but he will definitely place those people in your life when you ask him from a humble place.
Did you have something else you want to say?
No, I was just going to say it's amazing, because you're right. I didn't touch so much on the mentorship part of it, but mentorship, which is just a modern way of saying discipleship, mentorship is so essential. And I love what Diego said. Even like Diego's story. Diego was not a part of this industry at all. Diego and I both lived in Miami. Diego was a pastor for a while. He doesn't like me always sharing all that just because of, what it brings to mind. But he was a pastor for many years. He has a shepherding heart within him, and really didn't understand the industry at all. And when we met, he was just this great guy who was just offering me some insight and perspective that often I was blind to because I'm involved in the thick of it, right? And so what I'm getting at is mentorship, discipleship. Sometimes you start at your church, at your local church. You start with your pastor, and you get his advice or her advice to be able to tell you exactly who to go to or who might be the best fit for you. But don't be looking for who's the actor that could disciple me. Not that that can't exist, But discipleship is more than just the work. It's more than just the talent. It's the entire way that we live, and we want to be able to be discipled well by someone who really is following the Lord.
That's so good. And as you can see, all these guys, like, they live what they're talking about. And when you see someone who's like, oh, their career is amazing, what does their walk with the Lord look like? Not only look at how they do their craft, right, or their skills, there's also things to be learned by watching these guys' lives and how they live that out and trusting the Lord with each thing. So, okay, cool. Enough on that. Let's move to the next question, because this has 8 votes. Wow, good job, you guys. Participation. How do you hold to your morals/beliefs in the business if you're given the opportunity to take the role of a character who doesn't agree with your beliefs and they do bad things? What do you do?
I like this question. I think it's very important for an actor to figure out what your morals are in this business. What do you want to stick to? Where are you willing to compromise? Where are you not? So as actors, I highly encourage, and if you guys were in my demo reel workshop yesterday, you heard me mention this, but before you get your career going, write down on paper what your lines in the sand are. Know where your boundaries are, because when you get to that point of temptation, somebody's going to offer you a role or offer you the money or this connection or whatever it is, that's when it's really hard, when you're like on the fence, like, oh, I really want this. Maybe I will. I don't really want to, but it's a really good opportunity. But if you have all of that stuff laid out before your career takes off, it is so much easier to be like, no, that's not for me. Sorry, but thank you. Know what it is you are not willing to do before then. And the second part of the question, if you're given the opportunity to take a role that you don't agree with, so I see that question in 2 ways. If the character doesn't agree with my beliefs, that's okay. Do I want to tell the story? Is it a redemptive story? Do I feel comfortable telling this story? And maybe this character drinks and smokes and does these things that I won't promote. So to clarify that, commercial acting and television and film are different for me. I will do a character that smokes or drinks or whichever in a film if the story is good enough and it has a redemptive quality to it and it inspires the audience at the end. I will not do a commercial for tobacco or drinking or the lottery or anything like that, because I do not want to promote, condone, or support those things. So I have different boundaries there. However, I'd say in addition to that, if I do book a role and I finally get to read the script and I'm like, oh man, I didn't know this was in this, like I didn't see this in the sides, but now I got to read the whole script and I don't really jive with this, like I don't like it, that's okay. You can tell them, hey, thank you for sending me the entire script. I read through it. It doesn't look like this is for me, but I hope you guys find an actor that fits this perfectly. You can turn things down, and you can turn things down in a kind way that's not all emotional, and you don't have to go overboard with the way you turn things down, but you can turn things down. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there and actually book the role, but know that you can also decline the role.
And remember, there's a difference between portrayal and participation when it comes to like bad things, right? So when she was talking about smoking and drinking, they weren't going to actually ask her to do those physical things with the real substances on set, right? And so that's, and as audiences, we understand that as well, that the actors are acting, right? If you were asked to like, oh, we need you to actually drink and smoke and do whatever manner of things that you wouldn't do, it might be a different answer, right? And so is what is in the script, does that require you to actually do or be that thing that you would feel is sin? You know, we're told whatever is not of faith is sin. So I agree. It's like, you know, we don't want to be a villain in real life. Obviously, our stories need villains, right? So we need somebody to do that. But there was different ways to do it.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that the whole physical affection thing. Definitely know where your boundaries are there. Are you an actor who is cool with kissing a co-actor? Are you cool with cuddling a co-actor? Know that about yourself so that you can help production. I've turned down many things because of physical affection, because I'm cool playing the emotional side of it, but if we're playing husband and wife and we have a kissing scene, I'm truly kissing Aspen and I don't want to do that. I have a husband. So even though like some actors would be cool with it, I'm not. And you have to know that for you. Talk to whoever you need to talk to and see if they're cool with it, or if you are. But I wanted to add something else onto that. Oh, we all have different convictions. God has given us different convictions as to what we will and won't do. So just because I won't do something doesn't mean Robert doesn't have to. And if he does do something that's beyond my line, I don't need to judge Robert. He's got different convictions than I do. So pray about it and see what you have and see where God's going to give you peace about doing or not doing this thing.
That's so good. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add to that, that's beautiful and so true, because we have to remind ourselves of the authority God has given us to be able to say no and to know, hey, I'm not needy for an opportunity, versus to say, hey, I have a responsibility as an artist to choose and stand by the boundaries that I set for myself too, to glorify God as well. So just understand the power that you have as artists to say no.
And again, if you're married, like your first responsibility, your first ministry, your first person you need to answer, you need to be responsible for is your wife, is your husband, and your family. That has to honor God first and foremost. I want to stress the point that your boundaries should be figured out before you're getting started. Like, you need to know where those boundaries are. I often give an example of a dog. You ever seen a dog who's been like in an open park, but he's tied down with a stake, like the stake and a little bit of rope or whatever, and he's running around. He wants to enjoy stuff and he can't. He feels very limited, even though he's in an open park, but he's held by that stake. You take the same dog and you put him in a small backyard, but you let him loose, he doesn't feel it. He's exploring the entire world that's available to him. He feels the freedom. Because there are boundaries does not mean that you're not experiencing freedom or that you can't perform your art to the best of your ability. You can feel freedom without compromise. Setting up boundaries does not mean that you're doing less than, and you don't have to be scared of getting looked over or whatever, because I'm telling you, if that's what happens, you weren't meant for that anyway. God has a different path for you. So setting up your boundaries ahead of time is 100%. I encourage that. I can't stress that enough. That's a great word for sure.
And taking roles for your legacy versus your resume is so much better. Cool. What would be your mostest funniest, or embarrassing blooper that you would like to share?
I can only think of the one with my husband, but this doesn't say film. Do y'all want to hear that one? Yes. It's not film related. When my husband and I and my dad was like right after my husband and I got married, we all three went bowling. And my dad, when he would bowl and he'd do this little skip thing, and his leg would kind of come up. And I was like, I'm gonna do it like him. So my dad and my husband are talking behind me, and I go do my dad's thing. Well, my leg gets stuck behind me, and I just face plant into the gutter of the bowling alley. Or the bowling lane. And then my dad looks at my husband, and my husband wasn't watching me, so I didn't know this happened. But my dad just kind of looks at him and goes, "She's yours now, mijo." So my husband runs over to me, and I'm like, "Okay, cool, that was fun." But I'm guessing you meant on set, and I can't think of one.
Where were the cameras when that happened? Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you the Kendrick brothers they're big pranksters on set. I think every movie they try to find something to do. They found out that, so this is probably, why did I start talking actually? So I have this like deep fear of cockroaches. Oh gosh. Wow. I hate them. I'm from Miami. I mean, it's a part of life. It's like birds, but I hate them. I really I can't stand them. They freak me out. And somehow they found out about it. And we were shooting a scene in Courageous where I'm about to my wife is making me a sandwich and I have to go back out and I'm about to pick up the sandwich and take a bite out of it. And they it wasn't real, but one of those real looking realistic cockroaches in the sandwich. And it's being wrapped up. I have to put the final, it was a tortilla. I have to put the tortilla on top. And I see it and I have to roll it and I got to take a bite out of it. And I was like, whatever. And I took a bite, but I knew that they were just trying to prank me. Actually, Kirk Cameron had already prepared me for all their pranking, but it was funnier for them because it didn't work. But that's about the funniest one I can think of.
Speaking of pranks, they got me on The Forest too.
I know, bro.
So Isaiah was in the bed sleeping, and this was actually the last scene that we shot of the movie. So everybody was excited, kind of bittersweet the last day of filming. And I was waiting on him to call action, so I'm just sleeping in the bed. And I know the camera's really close up, so I'm like, all right, let me just try to hold it together. 5 minutes pass. I'm just like, and everybody started laughing. I'm just like, okay, the joke is on me. Then a Batman jumped out of the closet, in costume. I'm just like, what? Yeah. But it was a good prank. Yeah.
They love that.
Onto the bed as you're sleeping. Yeah. Oh, cool. All right. This is a good one. What's been your biggest God moment in your career that you can share with us today?
I got one. I got many. Biggest something kind of recent. It ties back to something long ago. So I'm wondering how much I should say. Okay, so when God, after God told me to do acting, I had a dream, and I was just going to throw the dream in the trash because I didn't understand it, and I told my mom about the dream. And I'll just tell you guys. So I was pushing an office chair down this side of the hallway. It was there's like a V. There was a hallway this way and a hallway that way. I was pushing the office chair, and I came to this big like fridge structure in the way, and I couldn't get past it. And I kept trying to get past it. It was this white refrigerator. I couldn't figure it out, and I thought, okay, fine. I'm gonna come back this way, and then as I come back, there are these 4 Mexican men in this aisle that are like, come this way, come with me. So I go down their aisle, and they are demolishing everything. Like they're knocking down walls, they're like clearing the path. And then we come to this door that's one of those, kind of like a saloon door that swings, and they said, wait here. And so I'm waiting, and then finally, it felt like a long time, but they finally came back, and they were like, okay, come on. So when I went past the swinging door, I walked in, and there were these huge buffets of food and all of my actor friends, and I just started weeping. And I was, such a weird dream, so I tell this to my mom, and she was like, honey, I think God was speaking to you. And I was like, well, how? And she said, I don't know, but I think the office chair is your business, it's your acting. You're trying so hard to push your career in this direction, and that's not the direction he has for you. If you will just follow what God has for you, he is going to clear the path. And he's going to bring you favor. And then when it's time, he will open up those doors of opportunity for you, for your acting career. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think you're right. And so I knew when she gave me that, I knew that refrigerator was actually a certain production company that I had been wanting to work with for a while. And I had been like looking for their casting calls and looking for all of this. And I just knew it was them. And then a couple of years later, actually, I think it was last year or the year before, somehow these people reached out to me randomly. I had never heard of them. I thought they were a scam. So I sent it to my agent, and she verified they're real. So 3 days later, I was filming with these people. And while I was not on set, it was like we were on break, and I was sitting at my Airbnb looking out, and I realized, oh my gosh, I am 11 miles from that production company that I wanted so hard to work with. And it was like a full circle moment, and God was like, look what I can do for you. You wanted to work with them so badly. Look what I just put in your lap. You've never heard of these people. You didn't know about. You didn't even audition for this. I gave this to you, and you don't even have to fight to try to go through them. So that was I wept when I was like, oh my gosh, Lord, like you are so good, and you can take this wherever you want it to go, and I can try to fight and do that, or I can just wait and let you bring that buffet whenever you want. And that was just a beautiful moment for my soul.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
For me, it's been a constant reminder of God's faithfulness in my career because, after I've been graced to work on certain projects, even recently, I'll meet with the producers, the cast, and the directors. We may have a dinner, and the executive producer, different people, but each project is like, hey, we're so glad you guys here. We specifically prayed for the right cast that we should bring on board. And so that reminds me of my prayers of, Lord, help me get to the right place, the right projects that you have for me. And specific moments that I had in the casting process after I've auditioned for a project, I could be at home randomly and I feel this presence, the Holy Spirit say, hey, get on your knees right now and pray in the Spirit. And so when I had those moments, I'm like, okay, this has to be you because I'm not thinking about this right now. Mm-hmm. And so literally the last 2 projects, I've done that following the yield of the Holy Spirit, got on my knees and prayed in the Spirit, and literally like a day later or 2 days later, it came through to work on the project, to get on set, to meet the people, to say, hey, we prayed over the people that God wants us to have. So it shows me that it's not because of talent, it's not because of skill set, but it's because of God's faithfulness to say, hey, do you trust me with this to open the door? It's not about you. If I open a door for you, it's not just for you to go, use the gift, so to speak, but it's for you to have an assignment. So once you get there, I want you to be that light on set for me. So his presence is constantly reminding me of his faithfulness.
That's so good.
To this day, from Courageous and a lot of the projects that I've been a part of, particularly the ones that have carried a real sincere spiritual message, it's just the inundation of messages from across the planet of people that continue to be touched by the Holy Spirit through these films. Stephen yesterday mentioned stories about Courageous, and I had not heard those stories about how recently in Brazil, God's doing stuff through that film. But right from the beginning, from the release of that film, and people coming up to me, strangers, whether in the grocery store or wherever, will start crying and telling me their stories anything from my dad's coming back home, a 15-year-old who stopped me in the grocery store to tell me my dad took us to see the movie. He was with a mistress and he broke up with her. He apologized to my mom and he's coming home this weekend. It was like the weekend after opening. So things like that, like a daughter telling me that her dad went to go see the movie, accepted the Lord at the parking lot, and 2 days later he passed away unexpectedly, but she knows she will see him again. Things like that, eternal implications. I mean, those God moments, those really, really good moments where only God is responsible for. I mean, my entire career is riddled with those. Much like you said, there's a lot to talk about, but I love it because they continue to come. I was telling Aspen earlier today, nobody goes to Tom Cruise and says, hey, Mission Impossible changed my life, right? But when people recognize me, it's not about me. When they recognize, I'm sure Aspen and you, even Diego is getting pretty popular now. It's not just about what we do. It's, let me tell you what God did through that film that you worked on. And those are the most humbling and special moments, I think, of my career.
Yeah.
I think, there's several God winks. For me, I'm very drawn to people, and I think one of the constant God winks for me is each of my clients is a moment of God's sovereignty, because it's not to be putting myself down, but I'm just not smart enough to circle myself around people like Robert, Emily, and the rest of my clients. Like, every person that I have is a reminder of God's faithfulness, that he brings the right people, and he forms the management company. And one of the ones that was very clear for me, as Robert was mentioning a little bit, I don't come from this industry, so I felt like a tourist for a long time. And after I started working with Robert, I started investing in, all right, God, if you want me to do this, I need to start going to film festivals and connecting with people. And one of the moments that was very challenging for me was I went to a film festival in Orlando, and I didn't know everybody. This was my first time going. I didn't know anyone. And I'm walking around like a dork, like just walking around and looking at people, and everyone's having a good time. And I don't know anyone. I'm a nobody. So maybe if that's you today, keep thugging it out, because you're here for a reason, And I remember I was so lonely and uncomfortable. I went into the bathroom because it felt safe there, And I remember I called my wife, and I told my wife, I'm like, babe, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Like, I don't know why I'm here. And she's like, do you want to come home? And I'm like, yeah, but I feel like I'm supposed to be here. And my wife told me, she's like, I think you need to be there too. And I'm like, all right. So I put my big boy pants on, and I just had this conviction where I knew, even though it was uncomfortable, like I knew God wanted me to be there for whatever reason. And I remember, how these festivals have a backdrop of the festival? So it was available. And like I said, I was with no one. I was by myself. So I asked some stranger, and I wish I could meet this guy one time. And I just saw him walking by. I said, hey, can you take a picture of me? It's going to sound weird, but I wanted to document that moment, of embracing the discomfort. So I took a picture of myself, because I believed one day that I'm going to be here with my team, whoever they are. And so I took a picture. I looked awkward. And then fast forward, it was like a couple of years ago, I went back to the same film festival, and all 5 of my clients were speakers in that film festival. And I was like, I took a group picture in that moment too. And I'm like, this is what I was holding on to. I was like, God win.
That's so good. I mean, I think a through thread that we're seeing here is it's steps of faith and obedience that lead to these God moments, right? And that can be your life too. Like Daniel Strawberry was saying this morning, we're not the protagonist of our own story, nor should we be. It's God. And so if we're looking for those God moments, let him be God in your life. Yeah.
Can I just clarify one thing too? Like in what you just said, it wasn't a God wink because I was back there with all of my clients. Like, that was a beautiful thing. But to echo what you're saying, like, success for Kingdom Ambassadors, the success for me was obedience.
Yeah.
Regardless of what happened. The Lord told me to be there.
Yeah.
And now, so for us as Kingdom Ambassadors, regardless of what role we get, our success is obedience.
Mm-hmm. And that success for you in that earlier moment was, I know where I am supposed to be, even if it feels weird, feels uncomfortable. I know God has me here, and there's a reason, and at some point I may see that or not, right? And you got to see it. So cool. What are some tips on how to be a better actor? Who to study, classes, etc., etc.?
It's totally it's taking advantage of investing in yourself to know that, okay, if you trust the Lord to open doors for you, you want to be prepared when he opens those doors. So we were just talking about, and so in 2022, I felt that I needed to stay in class. So from February to November, I committed throughout the whole year to just stay in class, and God brought the opportunity for the Forge in May of the following year, and I felt prepared. So I'm just so grateful that he led me to say, hey, get in class, just stay ready, because you never know when God's going to open the door, but you want to be ready when he does open that door. So definitely never take that for granted, to be able to invest in yourself in class.
Yeah, being a better actor, definitely listening to your scene partner, which you will learn in class. A lot of actors try to memorize their lines, and that is a tactic that you can use, but if you can also just listen to your partner or know your partner's lines and then decide, what am I feeling? How am I responding to what they're saying? Because when you have when you figure out the why of what you're saying, it's not just words, it's actually a response to what they said, then it becomes more real, and it's not just, okay, time for my line. It is actually a conversation, but you'll learn that in class. So I think tips on being a better actor is just like Aspen was saying, just get in class somehow, ask around, see who has a good reputation. And I mentioned this in the demo reel workshop yesterday, but you can audit classes. You don't just have to go and buy like a 4-week or a 6-week or a 1-year membership or, session to any coach. You can audit, like most of them will let you come sit in a class for free. You can't participate, but you can see how they teach and see what they teach and see if that's going to be a good fit for you. So I highly encourage that before committing to any class.
Yeah, I agree. But with everything that's been said, acting is really reacting. It's responding. It's responding to what's going on, the situation, the context, what your scene partner is doing. It's a team sport. It isn't just about you. Just because the camera's not on you, but you've got a scene where you're doing it with somebody, you've got to give them. You got to give them something to respond to. So don't be selfish. It isn't just about you. It's about the scene and the story. And when you're there, you've got the job. You're there for a reason. Somebody saw something in you. So you don't have to second guess yourself. You don't have to keep proving yourself. You just be responsible. Absolutely know your lines. No one's saying don't know your lines, but it's understanding the why. It's understanding the context and responding. You'll find a lot of people like to say, acting is not acting. It's when you're not acting. It's because it's natural behavior. It's about your eyes and what you do normally. Just because you're angry doesn't mean you have to furrow your brow and show it, And sometimes in theater you do that. You have to do that in theater because people are 50 rows behind need to understand what you're feeling. But when your face is on a close-up in a camera and you're on a screen that's like, 60 feet, your face is already very expressive with any subtle thing that you do. So it's being subtle, it's being real, it's digesting that and asking yourself, is this realistic? Am I actually, do I act this way? It's putting yourself also into those roles. You gotta, no matter, even if you're portraying somebody in history or some other person, you got to include that little piece of you that's you in that character so that it becomes an extension, so that it can be delivered honestly and purely. And so I would just say filming yourself, if you got time and you can film yourself with your scenes, you can see how you're looking, how you're reacting. Are you mugging? Are you making all these faces or does it look natural? I can tell you, Courageous was my first film. Courageous, I didn't have a lot of experience in front of the film, and I had a lot of experience with theater. And the Kendricks would be the first to tell you that they were concerned because they were like, well, we're bringing in this theater guy who also worked for Disney for a while, and it's like, he's gonna make extreme faces. We gotta settle him down. But what I was able to do is I practiced a lot in front of the mirror. We didn't have, awesome cameras on our phones at the time, and as I rehearsed that, I realized the subtleties that it takes to portray different emotions. And I was so self-conscious when I did. If you guys ever saw Courageous, there's a scene, which is like the end of the movie, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's at the end of the movie where my character is confronted with a big question: are you willing to cheat on a report? And there's this reaction that I'm supposed to have, and the weight of it. And I remember I was like, I'm just gonna trust that the camera's picking it up. I'm just gonna make this real. How would I actually do this? And I was blown away when I got to actually see the movie, and I was like, well, it worked. And it looked like I was underperforming. It felt like I was underperforming, but I needed to get rid of that concept because it was about being real in the moment, in the context, with the people that you're on scene with. It's a team effort. When you got a great director, like the Kendricks, like Alex Kendrick, they're like actors, directors, they'll keep you calm, but not everyone's like that. So again, it's digesting it, but making it real, being subtle, and it's responding. Respond to the person who's in scene with you, respond to the circumstances. How would you actually behave in that circumstance?
But if you want to see what happens in the movie, watch it. And then,
It's a good movie.
But I would just add on to that. I'm not an actor, so I'm always going to take the manager approach. Is all of these things are 100%. I've seen how the result from that. But I would say, not to sound redundant, is it's going to be so important for you to be so plugged in to your local church and your relationship with God, because then you can take all the classes, right? You do all these things, right? And you still won't get the role. And then you start like maybe having self-doubt. But if you get reminded by being plugged into your local church and community that you're not doing this simply to secure a role, but you're doing it as an act of obedience, and that your life is not just defined by what you do on set or a casting call, because you can do all these things and you still may not get the part. So you got to just make sure that you have this spiritual component, that you're so grounded that regardless of the no's that I'm going to get, I'm still going to be good because I'm not working for the yes. I'm working in obedience. I've just seen that, and I think just to add on how to be a better actor or a person of a creative that does something in quality. Like, quality is not an act. Quality is daily habits. So as long as it's part of your DNA of what you do, like you take classes not because you want to secure a role, but you take classes because you're a professional. You are called to do things in excellence, so you do it regardless of the yes.
I have a follow-up question to this, to the point of what I believe the question was as well, and then we'll move on. We'll have time for maybe one more after that. But I just want to take a couple of minutes, and would one or two of you speak to, there's lots of classes out there. There's lots of instructors, coaches, all these different things. How can you tell if a class or a coach or a teacher is working for you, if it's right for you? Or maybe what are some things that are indicators like, maybe I need to keep looking? Because you mentioned auditing, which is a great thing, but that means you're trying to evaluate, is this a good fit?
So I did all my acting and stuff in Austin, very liberal town if you don't know. So I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to find here, but I did audit, and there were some I didn't love, and then the ones I did want to go to, so there was one acting instructor that was very well known. She had a great reputation, and then I audited her class, and I was like, ooh, I don't know. But apparently this has been really good for actors. I'll just tell her what my boundaries are because I already had them firmed up. I'll tell her what that is, and if she's cool with me having those, doing her class, then I'll take her class. So she and I had a conversation after I audited, and I told her, like, I don't want to do scenes that have this, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that, but I enjoyed your class, so if that's okay with you. And she was like, absolutely, because the way I see it, at the end of the day, you're the one who has to look back down your own mountain and be okay with everything you've done. And I was like, wow, did not expect that. So share your boundaries with whoever it is, audit, see if you want to take it, and then share your values, your boundaries, what you don't want to do. Know what you don't want to do, because if you're on the fence, they can't help you. So know what it is you do and don't want to do. And then my other acting coach that really helped, so I did her for over 4 years. She's not a Christian. A lot of the scenes that other actors did, I didn't love. But the scenes that she gave me, she was very, very aware of my boundaries and didn't try to push anything on me. And if I ever had an issue with one of the scenes she gave me, I could just take it to her. And I loved her. And I still recommend actors go to her because of how much she helped me. So having the conversation with that acting coach is going to help you, and it's going to help them, because it's very frustrating for an acting coach or whoever to pull scenes for you, and they're trying to do it for everyone and make sure it fits and make sure it makes sense. And then on the day, you're like, I don't want to do this one. That puts so much more work on them. So know what you don't want to do beforehand when they're doing the scenes, and that way they can pull something totally different for you if they need to.
Cool. So build and clarify expectations. Awesome. I love this question. What is the most meaningful way to serve the director and the crew when you are on and off the set?
I think being responsive and attentive and communicative is really, really helpful when you're on set and whenever anybody needs anything. Yes, like even just receiving emails. You receive an email and you read it, but they don't know that you read it. They don't know if you know the stuff yet. So just replying and saying, got it, received it, noted, thank you. You can also, just check on them. Hey, is there anything, because like with Jared, I would ask him, he wouldn't give me a note for my acting. And I'm like, is everything good? Do you want me to change anything? He's like, no, great. But just knowing that they have a lot on their brains, so not assuming that they are thinking one thing about you or not, just check with them and see how they're doing and kind of be mindful of the room, or be mindful if you are working with them consistently and you know they typically behave like this, but today they're behaving like this. Maybe they could use some prayer. Maybe there's just something a little extra going on at home and you don't know about it and they're not going to bring it to set. But just being aware of who people are and what they might need, just reading them.
I mean, that's fantastic. That's absolutely right. There's obvious things, obviously, like know your lines before you show up on set, because that can be very frustrating for a director. But a director does have a lot of things. He's trying to tell the entire story. He's thinking about, even though there's a DP there that's thinking about lights and stuff, he's got to make sure that he likes what he sees on frame. So he has a lot of things he's going through in his mind as he's directing a film or a commercial or whatever it is that he's directing. And so being communicative, absolutely, letting them know not only that you just got script, but that you're working on whatever you're working on. If you have a question about your character, like, don't be afraid to ask a question. If they can't answer it, then you go in there and you do the best thing that you know how to do and let the director correct you. A director telling you do it differently does not mean you're terrible. It means do it differently. He has something else in mind. He wants to try something else. Maybe he got inspired because he saw something in your movement or in the way that you spoke. Once you're cast, you're part of the team, and we're trying to tell a story, and you're a part of that. And so it's very dynamic because not everything's rigid. It's just because there's a script doesn't mean it's always going to be exactly like that. When I did Mom's Night Out, which is one of the bigger budget movies that I had been a part of, we had a script. And I could tell you that about like 80% of that script is not what you saw in the movie. Not that the words weren't used, it's just that on the fly, a director saw stuff and he wanted to try something different. And it just lent itself for that. He had the right cast to be able to explore and to do these kind of things with. So it's being fluid, it's being a team player, it's being there for your director, obviously praying for your director, and letting them know that, what do you need? I'm here for you. What do you need, coach? Whatever you need me to do, I'll jump in, I'll do whatever you need me to do. Yeah,
I've had the privilege of being able to be on set with some of my clients when they're doing their thing, and I get to just sit back and kind of see what they're doing. One of the things I learned from Lee Allen Baker when she was on set with Kirk Cameron, like the question is, how do you serve like the team or the crew in the best way? And we know biblically it says we do it unto the Lord, right? And we're called stewards of our gift. And I think one of the best ways to serve is doing the job you've been asked to do, hired to do in excellence. Like, don't worry about everything else. Like, worry about what you've been called specifically to do. Because when you do your job in excellence, you're professional, you have everything, packaged, that makes room for you to do something else. So like with Lee Allen, she was doing what she was cast for. She did that really well. And because she was doing that so well, it made room for her to go around and find out different elements she's able to help out in. But it was stemming from having her job she was hired for well. And I think that's one way of serving the directors.
I was just going to add really quickly. Also know that your director was also given that job. And so he's also, in many ways, I mean, depending on how long his career has been, but even so, like, he's also feeling like he's got to live up to a certain expectation. So we're all on the same team. We've all been given the roles that we have on set. Like, just do them to the best of your ability. Give it all unto the Lord, right?
Oh yeah, and just like Robert was saying, it's always important to show up prepared, but at the same time, you want to be available to adapt because so many things change. The script could change. You could prepare one way and say, I'm going to say it just like this. However, once you get in front of your partner, you want to listen and react. So just don't be so committed to your choices, but to show up prepared and be open to adapt if things change.
And on the serving crew as well, so if you can be an extra or if you can be a stand-in on something, do that, because you will see what everybody does and what all the departments do. Crew is there way before people and they leave way after because they've got equipment to set up and do all of that. So they're exhausted all the time. They get very little sleep after they drive home, and they shower and they go to bed and they come back and they're there before you again. So as the actor, being aware of that and just being aware that they may not be on their A game all the time because they are tired. And if they need you to be somewhere, if they need you to do something, if you need to go get mic'd, don't have them chase you down. Go get mic'd when you need to get mic'd, or give them the mic back, or whatever it is. If camera needs you to stand there so they can get the camera ready, don't go off in a conversation. Just simple things like that help them do their job. Just like Diego was saying with doing yours with excellence, go there and just help them do their job well.
That's really good. Yeah, because it is a team sport, like y'all have said. And so, kind of follow up on what you just said, Venus. What might be, because the more you understand about each of the crew's roles, and you understand, oh, they're all trying to help me look good and have this great footage to edit with. What is something that you've learned along the way of like, oh, when I started out, I did not know that was helpful, or I did not know something I was doing was unhelpful to some person doing their job on this team sport?
I can say real quickly, thank you goes a long way. Just thank you. Thank you for what you've done today. Like, thank you. Thank you to everyone. I make it a point, and it's something I had to learn, but I make it a point, especially for like lunch crews. I thank our lunch crew. I always thank whoever's cooking. I thank the people that are serving. I thank the people that are setting tables up. When I did Mom's Night Out, I did that with, it was like the second crew that we had brought in for lunch, and I started talking to this guy, and I wanted to get to know him, and I was just, trying to extend. He told me at the end, he was like, I've done film for 25 years, and I got to tell you, I've never had anybody from the cast ever like hang out with me and stuff. I'm not saying that because of me. I'm just saying like there is such a need because we're all human beings. So just like you want a director to tell you like, good job, I mean, just go around and be thankful for the people, for what they're doing, the crew, everybody that's volunteering. Man, thank you goes a long way.
I can tell you from witnessing the crew side sometimes, it's really unhelpful if you send in non-current measurements to wardrobe. Causes problems. Yeah, because then you show up and your costumes don't fit. They're trying to help you look good, but yeah, so that's really great. Let's see if we have, yes. How did you find representation to our actors here?
I'll just quickly say I don't want to take the time away. I have this on my YouTube channel. I've had 4 agents over the years, and I actually shared how I got with each of them, so I won't take this time to do that.
Can you give us your YouTube channel? Give us your YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah, Personal Powerhouse. So that's my company, and that's where I put acting videos. So it's just Personal Powerhouse Venus on YouTube, and you'll probably find something that'll lead you there.
Cool.
It's a funny thing, when I was in college, I decided I wanted to become an actor, and I was like, you know what, I want to do something now. And again, speaking of God's provision, there was actually a film about to start filming like a month away. And so I did my researching the director, and he was actually from my same hometown. So I was like, you know what, let me send a professional email, introduce myself and the materials that I did have to present. And he was like, hey man, I love your stuff. We have a role for you. It wasn't like a major role, but I just had the opportunity to get around and see how things went on set in terms of just how everything goes down. But once I got on set, the main lead character, she said, hey, like, I love how you present yourself. I love how you're showing up. You have what it takes. Do you have an agent? And she was kind enough to introduce me to my first agent. So
That's fantastic. I can tell you, first of all, when you're following the Lord, no two paths are exactly the same. And so when you think of actor, you're thinking agent or manager, or, this is what I have to do in order to find success or to be able to do film. And I would tell you that, yeah, in the industry, that's what the rules are. However, it doesn't have to work that way. I can tell you, I've had 2 agents, and my experience with agents has not been great because I kept getting presented stuff that was not within my boundaries, and it just never worked. And then I, in prayer, was like, you know what? I want to create the team that is going to allow me to magnify what I feel the Lord wants me to show. And so God led me to Diego, who was, again, a pastor who we just became friends. And I introduced him into the business. And as we started talking, I loved his shepherding heart. And I was like, I need someone to manage me that's also caring about me, caring about not just my career, but about my family. And I can tell you that when Diego calls me and I'm on the road or I'm on set somewhere, his first question is, how's the family? how are you doing? And then it's like, all right, so this is what's going on. You know, this is the negotiations or wherever we're at about anything. So it's not the standard way. My career path has not been the standard career path. And so I would say pay attention to when you hear these great examples, but don't be afraid if it doesn't, because God's path is God's path. So I don't want you to feel discouraged if you're having a hard time finding an agent, you can't find an agent. Keep working on your craft, keep praying to the Lord, but keep working on your craft, keep finding those opportunities, and if you find someone or God leads someone into your path that loves the Lord and is willing to also help you in your career, go with it.
Very good. Probably our last question, looking at the time. Have you ever asked for a change in the script to hold true to your convictions?
Yeah.
And did it go well?
No. So I think it was last year or the year before, I was offered a lead role in a feature, and it was a comedy, and I was so excited because I was with my friends, and it's a great script, so funny. I thought they knew my boundaries. They did not. So whenever I reached out to them and was like, hey, just, this area, this one, if she could not, how do y'all feel about that? And then we just had a long conversation. They didn't want to change it. I wasn't going to change my convictions. And so they just decided to go with someone else, which was totally fine. And I was super bummed. And they were bummed. We all wanted to work together because we're such close friends. But I mean, that's happened to me many times where I have had to turn down a great opportunity because it doesn't sit well with me. And at the end of the day, I'm the one who has to look back down my own mountain and be okay with everything I've done. So it just kind of turns out like that, and you just have to be like, okay, God, like you are in control, and that one was not for me, and that's okay. And a lot of times you'll find that they actually have more respect for you for standing up for yourself, and they do want to work with you again.
I was just going to say that. You'll find a lot of times that people will respect you more because you're willing to stand up for your own convictions. And you'd be surprised how willing people are to work with you. Again, they got you because you bring something to the table that they love. And so sometimes adjusting the script to adapt to a certain thing because of your convictions is not a big deal. It is not going to change the story. So a lot of times you'll find that they're more helpful than they are aggressive about anything else.
Awesome. Thank you all so
Can
much.
Sorry,
go
I
ahead.
saw one question on there, and I want to answer it because I was where you are, and it was how to get into acting or the best ways to get into acting. So I get asked this question a lot, especially after I finally started getting into it. And I had the same question when I was starting. I'm like, how did you do it? How did you do it? I feel like I'm working and I can't get there. I did create a free guide. It's on my website, personalpowerhouse.com/acting guide. And it's a 4-page guide of what I did, the resources I used, the pros, the cons, and the tips that I wish I had known. So y'all are welcome to go download that because I know I remember being in your shoes. And if you want that guide, go get it.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. These guys will be here most all week as well, so don't be discouraged if your question on the screen didn't get answered. You'll be able to just chat them up later, okay? Can we give these guys a hand for being here with us?